Welcome back to a road to Super Bowl 55, and delighted to welcome on now a Super Bowl winner as a head coach with the Baltimore Ravens and friend of the show at this point, I think. Coach Brian Billick, how are you doing, sir?
Doing great. Looking forward to a good game.
And I think we are in for a good game this weekend. As much as I've been stunned at just how heavy, when we've asked people to pick the game, it's been leaning Chiefs, I think it'll be a great game either way.
Yeah, it will. And I've been asked, same thing every interview I do. It's okay, who are you picking? And, it's kind of a dealer's choice. The Chiefs do seem overwhelming in terms of what they can do offensively, but you bet against Tom Brady, you go broke betting against Tom Brady. So I think both clubs are capable. I think it's going to be a track meet. I think it's going to be up and down the field. The key is who can be the most effective in the red zone. I think in that regard, Tampa and the running game and him playing Brady ball might work to their favor, but you got to get someone to trade touchdowns for field goals. I think both coaches would make a deal with the devil to say, okay, would you take a 37-37 tie with 3 minutes to go and the ball in the hands of your quarterback? I think both guys would take it.
Yeah, and I think back to the AFC Championship meeting. Okay, that was the Patriots against the Chiefs, but Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, and that game from about midway through the first quarter had that feel of whoever's got the ball in their hands last is probably going to win this game. And it went to overtime and it proved the case.
Yeah, and both dynamic. And everybody's been talking, of course, as we always do, about the quarterbacks, the dynamic, the GOAT, Tom Brady, and the kid, the future GOAT in Patrick Mahomes. And the fact that Brady's doing it still at this stage, and just how spectacular Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes have been. Now, I will say this, with the offensive line situation in Kansas City, with tackles being out, might change it a little bit. I've long said you can't, a four-man rush, I don't know how good it is, isn't going to work against Patrick Mahomes because you can't control the lanes. You better get there quick, or he's going to step up in them or outside of them and make you pay. Maybe with the tackle situation, that changes, and Tampa Bay can get it done with a four-man rush. I think you got to have a five-man rush, keep them in the pocket. Now, that limits you what you can do down the field with so many good receivers. Tampa, I think, learned in the first game, you can't go man for man. Mm-hmm. I mean, Tariq Coleman just went off with 269 yards, 200 in the first half. It's hard for me to imagine Todd Bowles going, I think we'll do that again. Let's put Carlton Davis on and see if he got any better at it. It's just ill-advised. But there's only so many things that you can do in terms of being passive, don't give up the big gain. But now Kansas City's got to deal with explosive, Godwin and Evans. The dogs are loving it too. Godwin's, Evans, and AB down the field. I mean, it's going to be a lot.
I wonder as well, when it comes to that tackle situation, we all remember Mike Remmers back at Super Bowl 50 had the absolute nightmare first snap, and whether or not that can play on a player's mind and how much the coach needs to make sure that it's very much not.
Yeah, I mean, that's all part of it. I mean, the pro athletes are pretty good about moving on. Their confidence is sometimes veneer thin, more so than you would think. The other good thing is that this is a unique Super Bowl in that, normally would be talking about, well, okay, what are the biggest distractions? What are the biggest things you have to deal with your team? It's the distractions of the Super Bowl, being in the city, all the hoopla, the family coming in, the whole 9 yards. Kansas City's not even coming in until Saturday. I mean, this is business as usual. It allows the coaches to get to that narrowed focus. Guys, this is another game. We know how to do this. Let's keep our focus specific to that. And the game will just be the game. I think we've got a chance for the game to be better because of that. And the coaches have got to be loving it because this is just going to feel like another game to them.
And I guess that's true of Kansas City and should be in theory true of Tampa Bay. But at the same time, I'm sure you've been there. You stand on the 50-yard line of their practice field, you look over your shoulder, and Raymond James Stadium is there. It's, less than half a mile away. It's a walking distance. You can now see the Super Bowl signage up. And we all know that Tom Brady, as we hear all week, has been there 10 times and knows how to deal with it. But a lot of these guys are in there first, and that is looming over you for the whole week.
But they've got some touchstones like Brady, like Gronkowski, like Bruce Arians to kind of mentor, hey, when we went, having Rod Woodson, Shannon Sharp were a huge advantage to kind of be the touchstone of, guys, this is how we do this. No, this is okay. And yeah, the fact that Tampa is in Tampa and all the things going on, all but muted because of the COVID, but things are cranked up in Kansas City too. Guys going out and they go to the market or the grocery store or the cleaners or whatever. People are cranked up and they're talking. I mean, it's you do have to make sure that your team doesn't get too ramped up too early. I remember telling Marvin Lewis after our practice on Wednesday, we got to calm these guys down because they were ready to play right then. It was like, okay, we got a ways to go to Sunday. So yeah, I think Tampa, even though Kansas City is replete with players that know what it is to win a Super Bowl, so they have very recent memories of, okay, this is how we did this. There's enough touchstones for Tampa Bay that I think they're going to be okay.
Just touching on the point you were making about the 4-man rush, that Bucs defense. I think what fascinates me about that is that Patrick Mahomes is the only quarterback in the NFL over the past 2 seasons when facing 5 or more rushers whose quarterback and passer rating goes up when he's facing blitz. And I know he's not got the tackles this time who are going to help with those one-on-one matchups, but it would terrify me sending too much pressure because of who they've got back there.
And pressure, not necessarily for pressure's sake, and usually means because pressure means man. And he's got a lot of guys, a lot of ways to hurt you on man on the outside. So you got to be creative in the way that you bring the 5-man pressure, or very creative in the way you bring the 4-man pressure. Make him pause and hesitate. You can't just be the down 4 guys. You got to have the linebackers, and everybody's got to move and inside and loop and outside and get him to pause a little bit. Then try to play those zones in behind it. So it's not perfect. They're going to move the ball, and they're going to go up and down the field. The other thing that may happen is I'm looking to see in the red zone. Once you get in the red zone, the speed of Kansas City is nullified a little bit because all they can do is run out of the back of the end zone. So that where Tampa Bay may be able to run the ball and Brady ball, that type of thing. So maybe it may very well come down to trading touchdowns for field goals. If Tampa Bay, can you get Kansas City to kick just that 1 or 2 field goals instead of touchdowns, then maybe you have a chance.
Yeah, we were talking to a couple of the members of the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl 52 team this week, and I was looking back at the game log for that. And, you know, you're in the stadium, you're experiencing it, and you don't necessarily take in everything about the game. I'd totally forgotten there was only 1 punt in that entire game, and it came late. And so, yeah, like you say, the idea that if you can trade a touchdown for a field goal at any point in the game, it might make a huge difference. And the running game of Kansas City hasn't been there in the same way. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers stopped the running game well, and actually the Bucs offense looks like it's been pretty balanced this year.
Yeah, and let's remember in that game 1, once they figured out you cannot play man against Tyreek Hill, they got into a little bit of a groove. It was a 3-point game with most of the damage happening in the first half. So Tampa did adjust. And so it'll be interesting to see, even though it didn't feel that way because they were up and down the field. That was a tight game. So, yeah, I'd have every reason to believe we're going to see the same this week.
And there's a couple of guys who are going to have a huge effect on that on either side of the ball, who many people think should have had head coaching opportunities this year and haven't done. In Tampa Bay, you've got both Byron Leftwich and Todd Bowles would make strong claims to that. Certainly Eric Bieniemy had interviews as the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. As a head coach who's been to the Super Bowl, talk to me a bit about those guys and how important it is for your assistants to be just your rock for this week.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the hiring period in the NFL is juxtaposition over the playoff runs. And conceivably, there's any number of guys, because you're in the playoffs, means you're successful, because now that makes you a head coaching candidate. It works out. You end up getting it worked out. You want to show your focus, keep your focus on the task at hand, but you have those other things in place, particularly now since it's being done by teleconference. So, you don't have to physically go and have these interviews. But you do worried about that. I know I did, as we were making our run as an assistant with Minnesota. Denny Green, my mentor, God rest his soul, was fabulous about making sure we cut out time at the end of the week for he and I to talk about, okay, here's what can I help you with? What do you need to do? So it's just the way it is. And I think the coaches are used to it, and the organization is looking for coaches. And those guys, now the jobs are filled, the good thing is they can focus on the task at hand.
Just two more from me, Coach. And the first one is the obvious question: which way does it go on Sunday?
Like you mentioned when we started, it's hard to go against Kansas City, but I, for one, am not going to bet against Tom Brady. I wouldn't put any money on it. You're going to lose your shirt doing that. Like I said, Earl, I've said all week long, my guess is that the coaches, if they could make that Faustian deal with the devil, and the devil said, tell you what, I'll guarantee you a 37-37 tie at the end of the game with 3 minutes on the clock, and your guy gets the ball, they'd both take that bet. I think it could very well come down to that. The winner is going to be the guy that has the ball in his hands last.